Throughout our existence here, and the millenniums that have passed, a common inquisition amongst humanity has consistently been debated. Who has created this manifested world? What is the origin of our cause? Are we simply a byproduct of matter? Or is there a transcendental living being beyond the scope of this phenomenon that we only perceive within our limited senses? How has this world been preserved with innumerable material nature, such as the seeds that come from trees, and from seeds become the trees? Who is supplying the elements of synopsis? And how are the sun and the moon consistently orbiting and supplying sufficient energy to the earth? These questions are immaculately answered by the great sage Vyasadeva in the Vedic scriptures, who is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord Krishna. This evidence is free from the four mundane deficiencies of a human being, which are mistake-making, being illusioned, propensity to be cheated, and imperfect senses. Scientists will go on perpetually with theory after theory, constantly changing, running on the false idea that life is born from matter. This is nonsensical. Matter is generated from life. That is not a theory, that's a fact. Matter changes in 6 phases: birth, growth, maintenance, production of byproducts, dwindling, and death. But the life within the matter, the spirit soul, is eternal. It goes through no such changes. Life appears to be developing and decaying, but actually is simply passing through each of these 6 phases until the material body can no longer be maintained. When the old body dies, the soul enters a new body. God himself, Sri Krishna, gives us this information in the Bhagavad Gita. Dehi nosmin yata dehe, kaumaram yovanam jara, tata dehantara praptihir, dhirastatara namuhyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. According to the Vedas, the measurement of the soul within the body is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair. This is very small. In fact, it is atomic. Yet because of the atomic spiritual energy, the body is working. It's not so difficult to understand. Suppose a man thinks himself to be very strong. Why is he strong? Only because within his body there is a spiritual spark. But as soon as the spiritual spark is gone, his body dies and his vigor becomes void. If scientists say that matter is the cause and origin of life, they would be able to create life by the use of chemicals, but this they cannot do. So who is providing our spirit soul, known as Atma, eternality? Where is that inconceivable energy emanating from? Krishna again provides the answer. Mame vamsha jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha, manasastani indriyani, prakatistani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. The Lord is stating that every living entity are his part and parcel, that is simultaneously one and different from him, like a molecular particle of sunshine or fire. This is known as achintya bheda abheda. It is not that the living entity is one with God. It is that our souls are the infinitesimal servant of the infinite Lord, emphasizing on the word fragmental. In other words, we are a minute part of the complete whole, and that complete whole is Lord Krishna, who provides this world the 24 elements of sustenance. We know that the sun and the moon are vital for Earth's preservation. The sun radiates light and heat, or solar energy. Plants need sunlight to grow. Humans and animals need plants for food and the oxygen they produce. The moon illuminates the night sky, generates tidal power, and by its ambrosial nature, nourishes all vegetation. These two sources receive their luminosity from Brahma Jyoti, which is the light effulgence diffusing from the transcendental body of the Lord, and that same light is reflected in varieties of light we rely on, such as fire and electricity. These are only a few of Krishna's opulences, known as vibhutis. Everything we see moving and non-moving has a previous cause, allowing its existence, thus making all living entities exclusively dependent on the Lord. The material world, which is created by the illusionary potency of the Lord, was previously inert and insentient. It was devoid of consciousness, which is the source of life. Krishna, in his expansion as Mahavishnu, radiantly glanced over the total sum of material energy. In its first stage, it is the subtle, undifferentiated sum of material elements, known as pradhana. Secondly, the manifested stage of material energy, known as prakriti. And lastly, the total sum of material energy, known as mahatattva. And when it was agitated by the Lord's glance, everything came into existence. Western philosophers sometimes think that the original cause of creation was a chunk that exploded. If one thinks of this chunk as the total material energy, the mahatattva, one can understand that the chunk was agitated by the Lord's glance, thus making him the originator of creation. We shall now go to the statements of the personalities, such as the demigods, the great sages, and the eminent figures who have conclusively declared Krishna as God. These verses are from the Vedic scriptures, historically being the oldest in human civilization and a part of Sanatan Dharma, which denotes the eternal way, or from time immemorial. These verses indicate that the Lord has a complete transcendental body, which is not subject to deterioration and is full of qualities and attributes known as sagun, and nirgun, implying he is beyond material time and space. His all-attractive form is known as Sachitananda Vigraha, meaning full of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. His eternal name, form, attribution, and pastimes are the acme of the absolute truth, being the absolute self-effulgent autocrat. Thus, the most imperative question arises: if we are part and parcel of Krishna, how do we meet the Lord and go back to his infinite abode? In the Katha Upanishads it is said, Himavesha vrinote tena labhya. Whoever he chooses himself to be known to can know him. Otherwise, nobody can know him against his will. He is reserved the right of not being exposed to the mundane and materially contaminated senses of anyone and everyone. The only way to know the one who knows all is to engage in his devotional service. Krishna is known as Akila Rasamrita Murti, the reservoir of all divine mellows and the embodiment of all loving relationships. For one who dedicates themselves, developing a mood worshipping the Lord saturated with the salve of love known as bhakti, can conquer him easily and can become eligible to see him by this process. This is actually our inherent and original consciousness of the soul and its only duty. But due to the mixture with gross nature, or Jada Prakriti, the living entity creates a false ego known as ahankara and becomes attached to temporary affairs within this material world. Love and affection are above all, and this pure representation of the ultimate reality is in the Krishna conception. This is above knowledge and power. So march towards the universal good. Wherever and whoever you are, it does not matter. Take your course towards Krishna consciousness. This is the highest fulfillment of life for everyone. You are only to turn your face towards him and march. The sweet absolute Shri Krishna will welcome you, and we will one day be privileged to enter his spiritual abode.